There. Great. And I start to see some attendees come in. Welcome, everybody. Welcome, welcome. We'll get things officially going in now just another minute or so. We'll give some more people some time to jump on. We're excited to have you with us today, John. Thank you for joining us.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I'm excited.
Nice. And Mike, we get to do it again.
Do it again. I'm coming to you, Kaylee, from the mountains of, Massachusetts, out in the Berkshires. I don't know. That's the best I could do here, being a Bostonian. There are some high peaks out here. So, after this session, I'll be doing some massive mountain climbing. But yeah, really happy to be here with you, Kaylee, and you too, John. Thanks. It really. I'll say this at the end. I'll say it now. A big thanks to John for doing this and for participating and for letting us pick his brain and really hear why his firm has decided to move over to Salesforce.
Yep, it's a hot topic. So we've got a critical mass of people on the line. Let's get everything officially kicked off. Welcome, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us today. My name is Kaylee Garrido, and I head up strategic marketing and events here at Hike 2. A little bit about Hike 2. If you haven't met us yet, we are a fully functional, best-in-class innovation consultancy, and we specialize in digital transformation strategy, human-centered design, cloud implementations, kind of the whole gamut of what you need to get innovative and modernized in today's world. We have a great conversation lined up for you today. We are going to be talking all about how law firms can make the best use of their client relationship management systems. But before we begin, a little bit of housekeeping. This is a webinar, so of course your cameras and microphones are off, but we do encourage engagement. You can reach out to us via the chat. You can send us a question in the Q&A, and we'll reserve some time at the end of the session. If you want to even unmute yourself and kind of come on, you can let us know and we can make that happen. We are, of course, recording today's session, and it will be posted out on our YouTube channel. So I will share that link with you all here soon. And I just welcome you to, check out our YouTube channel. We've got a plethora of other innovation forward content out there for you. So we will officially begin things, and I will introduce my colleague, Mike Anastasides. Mike is our Director of Legal Solutions here at Hike 2. As a strategic leader with many years of practical experience in the legal vertical, Mike excels at leading high-performing teams to drive revenue growth and build customer relationships. Mike, thank you for joining me, and the floor is yours. Please do take it away.
I appreciate that, Kaylee. Thanks for the kind introduction, and really happy to be here with everyone today. And you see the agenda we have in place. We'll start off with introductions, absolutely positively, and then we'll get into a few slides on how Hike 2 helps law firms every day with some of their solve some of their biggest business challenges, and then a few slides as well on Salesforce and how Salesforce is sort of the platform of choice, let's just say, that for many firms as we start to kind of work our way down this road. And then lastly, perhaps the really the key to all this, and maybe you heard me up front thanking John from Shook. We're going to have a Q&A with John on sort of why his firm has moved over from Salesforce over to Salesforce from a previous CRM system. So you heard a little bit about me, legal industry director. Kaylee gave a fantastic introduction. I was with Salesforce for about 10 years prior to my time at Hike 2. Today at Hike 2, talking to 2 or 3 law firms seemingly every day about digital transformation, about business transformation, and again, spent about 10 years of my time at Salesforce helping to stand up their legal industry vertical. The last few years, especially while I was at Salesforce, meeting with 2 or 3 firms every week, participating in webinars such as this and other events where we were helping law firms. And then prior to that, I was actually at a law firm in Boston, Massachusetts for about 6 years. And I will politely pass the mic to John for his introduction.
Thanks, Mike. Happy to be here with you. My name is John Wright. I work at Chicago and Bacon as Senior Marketing Technology Specialist. I have been at Shook for, let's see, in about a month, it'll be 8 years, which I can't believe. But I've been in this role for about 7 years. And so what I do is in my role is I manage a number of technology resources for the marketing department. And most importantly of that is Salesforce. And so it's a quite robust platform, and there's a lot that it can do. And I'm excited to be here with you to talk to you about kind of our transition and how it's going with us.
Excellent. Well, we're equally excited. We might be more excited, John. Let me just say that. We're excited about Hike 2 though as well. And let me give you a little bit of information about Hike 2, our firm providing advisory services and solutions with a focus in legal, law firms, corporate legal groups, really helping organizations, helping firms that are looking to digitally transform, helping them make the most of their current technical investment, helping them to solve some of their most pressing business challenges. We provide direction, we provide guidance, advisory guidance, and of course, hands to keyboard implementations, automating processes to minimize human errors, implementation, design. Really focused at Hike 2, we really focused on building a team of experts and really sort of applying that to the legal space while maintaining depth and sort of great legal experience. We've sort of seen this gap, a little bit of a gap in legal technology between people that know traditional legal tech and people that sort of know modern legal tech. We position ourselves as a firm, as a team that knows both, so we can perform large transformations and bring innovative firms into the future. We hang our hats on the knowledge of emerging technologies, position ourselves as a company that can take firms into the future. Look, our role is to help our clients succeed. We're meant to be an unbiased team, helping you find the best solutions, for your firms, and really helping you. And we can also help you sort of figure out how Salesforce can help there from an AI, from a data, from an analytics perspective. We've got, think of ourselves. I think I covered this as a really sort of a modern technology firm that focuses in legal, people with years of experience in the legal industry. We've done the last couple of years. We've been at multiple thought leadership events. We'll be at LMA next week, ILTACon in August. Clock, we'll talk about that towards the end of today's presentation, but Clock next month as well. We've helped firms migrate their legacy tech stack and data to bring expedited time to value. We've got tremendous depth from a tech and Salesforce consulting perspective. People that have been technology consultants for 20 years, members of the team that have been Salesforce consultants for 10 and 15 years. You see all the certifications on the right-hand side, and those numbers are growing. The amount of people that know Salesforce at our firm is growing. So if I was going to sort of net this out, if there's a Salesforce certification, we're almost certain, we almost certainly have it, and we're pretty, well versed when it comes to Salesforce. Speaking of Salesforce, let's talk a little bit about the Law Firm 360. What we've seen really are many firms now looking at Salesforce as sort of a superior choice, for their firms, especially over as compared to other, I guess, legacy CRM systems. So when it comes to business development, when it comes to marketing, there are traditional systems out there that, CRM systems that many firms are using right now and have used in the past. Those systems may be sort of designed primarily for, contact management and, I don't know, glorified Rolodex is a phrase I sort of often hear. Salesforce, of course, offers a more modern, more scalable, sort of fully customizable platform for the entire firm, but especially for the needs of legal marketing and business development, and integrations with marketing automation tools, email platforms, third-party application. I mean, it kind of it goes on and on. And unlike maybe some of the more legacy CRMs that maybe there's a little more manual data entry and perhaps limited automation. Salesforce, of course, the workflows, and I know John's going to touch on this a little bit during the Q&A, but very sort of workflow centric, very automation, improving data accuracy, reducing the admin burden, sort of a lot of goodness, I guess, to all that. And so really helping, to modernize law firms that will, oftentimes have sort of more, more siloed applications that don't necessarily communicate with one another. And, we talk about sometimes, islands of trapped data, right? Which is, this could be a good name for a movie about law firms and technology. But you see all the different systems on this slide, which, many firms using these systems in many different ways. Obviously, when data sits in separate platforms that doesn't integrate, seamlessly, firms can lose the ability to view, client and matter information. That's going to, create potential blind spots in business development and marketing and client service. That's going to hinder collaboration across departments, prevent teams from really identifying those cross-selling opportunities and understanding client behavior and being that client-centric firm. So look, the trap data leads to inefficiencies. It not only increases the risk of errors, but frustrates attorneys, frustrates staff, and we've seen law firm data sort of very much see all the different pillars here. And I know we're talking a lot about business development and marketing, which you see over on the sort of the far left-hand corner. But firms we work with typically have data spread across all these different capabilities. And and we've seen many systems in place for the matter management, the collections, the client billing. Much of the time the data in these systems isn't integrated, and and doesn't necessarily interact in any meaningful way with the other data in these systems, and that can absolutely influence things. And we think that what we've seen is that law firm data can very much deliver top line revenue impact. So when you start to really centralize your data on a platform, whether it's bringing it into Salesforce or just integrating it, you can start to deliver sort of true top line revenue impacts, as this slide suggests. And then the next slide here, when you can bring all that into sort of this sort of common pane of glass, you can start to associate these tiles that were never maybe associatable before. I don't know if that's a word, but the green tiles where, sort of creating intelligence that maybe you otherwise wouldn't have had as a firm, because you're able to have all that data sort of in one place. So I don't know, how to sequence a campaign or who to invite to an event or something like that becomes easier, becomes more efficient. And and as you see, you hear, some of those, those tiles in green, maybe some, I don't want to say hidden value, but maybe, capabilities that weren't necessarily considered when firms maybe initially considered Salesforce. So last slide before we get to the Q&A. To wrap up the Salesforce capabilities here, it's really meant to be sort of a trusted AI platform that is, it's very much purpose-built for client engagement, for business development, designed to really unify data and efforts, I guess, across attorneys, across marketing, across business development, a single source of truth. Like I've said that maybe 3 or 4 times, but eliminating data silos, enabling better collaboration, more strategic decision making, I don't know, better relationship building, low code, no code functionality. I know that's on the slide, and you see that really, which empowers people, empowers teams, empowers marketing and business development teams to build, to customize, to launch workflows or dashboards without relying on technical teams. That speeds up execution. That enhances agility, that lowers IT overhead, and it's meant to be the trusted AI platform, built for client engagement, built for business development, and a person that very much knows that firsthand, sort of firsthand what a difference Salesforce can make from a marketing and business development perspective is John Wright from Shook. And so I want to pull John back into this conversation, reintroduce him, and really, John, if you're good, I see you out there, and hopefully you can still hear me. We'll get started with the Q&A.
Yeah, sounds good.
All right, let's fire it up. Thank you. Let's do it. We'll pop the pictures of us back up, John, in case people can't see their cameras. and can't see what we look like. Just kidding. Let's start though. All jokes aside, this is not a time to joke, John. This is serious stuff. Let's start with an easier, maybe sort of a question for you, John, if it's okay. Love to hear, for your team, for your firm, what were some of the biggest pain points that your team faced with your previous CRM, and then, why move to Salesforce?
Yeah, yeah, great question. So I guess in a nutshell, our previous CRM system was a little bit clunky. The user interface wasn't very easy to navigate. There was a lot of issues with the reporting. It's pretty substandard, and I myself, I spend I'm kind of the main person at Shook and Bacon that kind of maintains our CRM, and I was spending way too much time doing, manual data entry and cleanup. Um, and we had a lot of connectivity issues. I feel like I was almost weekly, I was calling someone in IT saying, "Oh, we can't connect to our, email exchange server. Can you look into it?" And she'd, get back to me a couple days later. So it's just a lot of issues there, and just the data wasn't very reliable. We had a tool, and I'll talk about this later. We had a tool that would kind of look at our attorneys' inboxes and just kind of mine their emails and kind of scrape just the signature blocks. And it would create new contacts and establish relationships based on how often an attorney's talking to a contact. Um, we're a law firm of, at the time it was about 500 lawyers. Now we're close to 600. Um, we were getting, on a good day, 5 contacts coming in. Um, and a lot of times it was, 1, 2, 0 contacts, and that just didn't make sense to me. And so we made the decision in early 2023 that, let's look and see um, what else is out there, because there's got to be something better. There's something that's going to be more reliable for us. Um, and so ever since, starting in 2029, I participate in a survey, and I received a corresponding white paper that talks about the state of CRMs at law firms. And I noticed that our previous vendor was starting to lose market share. Like I said, I think I received this since 2019. They starting to lose market share every year, and I noticed Salesforce was increasing their market share every single year, um, and finally Salesforce, I noticed they were at the top, and so we looked at the top 3 or 4 vendors, did lots of demos and talked to lots of different organizations, and we really settled on Salesforce, um, and the reasons being that um, it, it its robustness, really, to be frank. It can do so much. We can do our CRM side. We can do our email marketing. You can send all of our alerts, newsletters, things like that through Salesforce, and we can really integrate it with different systems in our firm very easily with the Open API and the App Exchange. And I'll touch on this later, but just because it's so big and it's got so many resources, um, that was the one that ultimately we decided was going to be the best fit for us.
John, I feel like a lot of these questions I'll ask are going to be similar, so thank you for
That's good.
bearing with me. Maybe getting to some of what you were just saying, love to hear about a couple of benefits of Salesforce, maybe additional benefits. Sort of one being an immediate benefit for Shook, and then the second, a benefit that maybe you and the team didn't necessarily anticipate.
Yeah, sure. So an immediate benefit, I guess, just for me personally, is just the amount of time saved with reporting and just the maintenance of the system. One thing I'm a big fan of is flows. Um, you can create workflows and process automation flows in Salesforce and CRM. With our old system, let's say we had a client contact record come in, based on certain criteria, they would need to be in this list or this list, or they need to not be in this list or this list, and just kind of trying to maintain all that and keep track of all that um, was a little bit more difficult. Trying to set something like that up in our old system just didn't really work. It wasn't very intuitive. Um, but with these Salesforce flows, I was actually looking this morning. I've got about 60 different flows that take contacts and company records and move them all around to different areas of our kind of organization, adding them to different lists or moving them from different lists based on whether they're a client contact or a Shook attorney or an alumni or any number of criteria. Certain industries, all that information I'll just have to create the contact record or the company record one time, and then the flows just take over and move them wherever they need to be. So that's just really been really nice. And the reporting is so much better in Salesforce than what we had before. I had mentioned the email signature scraper tool that we use to kind of establish relationships and identify, who our attorneys know at different organizations. Just an example of kind of how it was before was, I would, if I were to click on, and this happened a number of times, I would click on, a contact record and look at, a relationship with our attorney, and it would say, they had a score of, 4 or 5 on a scale of 1 to 5. And then, I dig a little bit deeper and I noticed that they hadn't talked to them or hadn't emailed them in like a year and a half. And it's like, that's not really very reliable. And like, why is this, scoring so high when they haven't talked, in so long? Um, or maybe they didn't talk so long and they just, or maybe they were talking, they just, the tool just didn't pick it up. Now with the tool we have, connected to Salesforce called IntroHive, we can get ridiculously granular on these relationships. I can click on, a contact at, any company, and look at the relationship, and I can see that, this person met with, our attorney, and on that meeting there was 3 other people they were part of that meeting. Or maybe they emailed yesterday, and I can see, who they emailed and who, kind of was included on that email, and I can even determine whether or not our attorney sent the email or our attorney received the email or if our attorney was CC'd. So that level of granularity has been so important for us because it makes the data reliable. We can't have a situation where, we're telling, one of our attorneys that we know someone you know at a at a certain organization, and then the attorney comes back and says, well, I kind of know them, but I haven't talked to them in a while. Maybe I was on a panel with them last year or something, but I kind of know them, but not super well. And then we're saying, our data says you know them really well. So we just need that reliability. So that's something that's been really great for us. And then I guess a benefit that we didn't anticipate, at least I didn't anticipate. I mean, we were, told about this. Salesforce can really integrate pretty well with, your other systems, but I guess I didn't really understand how easily it could. Um, with the open API, it's been really nice. We've been able to tap into a number of resources at our firm. Um, you know, we've we've tapped into our records department for some client information. We tapped into our HR system to keep our, attorney list updated and current. Um, when attorneys join and leave the firm. There's another tool that we're looking at, our project management software that we have in our marketing department, that has a plugin from Salesforce, so it's really easy to kind of tap in to that. There's a lot of different resources out there, and they have this thing called the App Exchange, where, if you see a need that you can't immediately find in Salesforce, they have a bunch of third-party apps that you can connect to pretty easily. It's just a matter of downloading it, setting up, going through a couple steps, and connecting. So I guess I didn't really realize how easy that would be. It's been really nice because it's really been able to help us expand, past the basic client data and contact data that we have, and really get more information in there because, I think more information is better. So that's been really great to see.
Cool. Yeah, that's great, and love to hear about that sort of unintended, I guess, or unanticipated, benefit. The App Exchange obviously being a great place for firms to go to for other solutions, many times built on the Salesforce platform. John, one thing when we're talking to firms, there's always, not always, there's oftentimes, that's the better way to put that, sort of a hesitation to move off of a legacy system onto a modern system like a Salesforce because they may think it's too complex or too just disruptive. Really, is probably the best way to put that. What steps did you and your firm take to ensure a smooth transition from your previous CRM?
Yeah. So that's a great question. So we officially made the decision that we were going to switch to Salesforce in around like August, September of 2023, and so we had, and we are going to, start the process in January of 2024, and so we had, those remaining 4 or 5 months to get everything kind of ready to go. And me and a couple other people on our team really went through all of our old data, um, and really made some tough decisions on, what data do we want to pull into Salesforce and what data do we want to leave. Because before I moved into this role, our CRM wasn't, the maintenance of it wasn't, super, on point, I guess. It was kind of just loosely kind of kept. Um, and so there was a lot of just junk that was just dumped in there, and a lot of junk that we didn't need. And so, we spent all those months cleaning it up, getting rid of, or figuring out what we want to get rid of, and what we want to keep. We ended up purging about a third of our client, or a third of our contacts and a third of our company records.
Hmm.
And then I thought what I thought was helpful was just keeping it very organized. Like we didn't just say, okay, here's, this whole bucket of data, let's just move it over. We painstakingly, exported everything into like probably about 3 dozen files. Um, and we were able to give that to Hike 2 and say, this is this particular list, this is this particular bucket of information. Let's build this out in Salesforce. And so that helped them kind of go step by step and build it out exactly, kind of how we had it before. So we didn't really lose any of that data and didn't have any issues, kind of converting it from one system to the other. And I mean, this is just a kind of luck of how our everything was set up for us. But we had, about a 3 month overlap from when we, from when we started with Salesforce to when our old systems went offline. And so, being able to have that 3 month transition to start really building everything out in Salesforce while still being able to use our old systems, was really helpful for us because we could continue, sending out all of our communications and maintaining our contact list and everything like that, without having to just start from scratch.
And I know that you had also, John, sort of moved from a previous marketing system
Yeah.
over to Salesforce account engagement, which a lot of people still refer to as Pardot. Maybe tell the audience how you've been able to utilize account engagement for some of your, email marketing initiatives.
Yeah, account engagement is great. That's the, like you said, for the email marketing, we're using that, and it's nice to have it all under one platform. We had two before, and it was, sometimes they didn't talk very well to each other. There was always, some connectivity issues between the two. But it's been really nice to have account engagement. The email templates and emails, creating emails is is really easy. It's drag and drop. You can, embed images, videos, text, whatever. The templates are much cleaner. The reporting is much more, um, simple, and more reliable. And the thing that I really like is the ability to automate things. You can automate. You can create lists based on automations. You can create, segment, different, prospects in your audience based on, different criteria. That's been really great. Um, and the one thing that I really like, is a program called the Engagement Studio, where, let's say you have an event and you're gonna have, your initial invite, and you have, your reminders and maybe some other communications that you send them. If you go into account engagement, there's this Engagement Studio where you kind of plot out, your different buckets of information you're going to send your contacts, map out your criteria of when you're going to send it to them. Like if they don't open this email, you send them another email with maybe a different subject line or something like that. You schedule your reminder emails, and you basically just plot out the entire journey for your audience. And then all you have to do is click play, and Salesforce takes care of it all. So, or I guess account engagement takes care of it all. And so you don't have to, you send an email, and you don't have to go back in. Oh, okay, I got to pull the RSVP list, and then pull those contacts off of, the list, and then send out a reminder. And you don't have to do all that kind of maintenance, because the engagement studio takes care of all of it. So, Salesforce is really big on automation, and really improving efficiency, and making, better use of your time. And that's something that I found really, helpful with both the CRM side and the account engagement side.
I heard you mention Hike 2 earlier, John. So thank you. Kaylee and I thank you for that. That's for sure. I'd love to hear from you, though. What maybe were some of the, I don't know, key decisions, key challenges during the migration process that the Hike 2 team helped to guide or helped to influence?
Yeah, so what was nice was, we really felt we need to do all the prep work beforehand to make it as easy as possible for the transition. So, there weren't a ton of, challenges. The biggest challenge was just how do we move from one system to another, and how do we at least at the baseline replicate what we have in our old system into Salesforce. Um, but Hike 2 really took that and really made it, you know, even better. If I'm going to be, completely honest. They at a minimum they were able to replicate what we had in our old system, but um, they really showed us how to improve it. So, for an example, we're a law firm of 600 lawyers now. And relationships are just incredibly important. And Kelly and Louisa were so great. They really walked us through every step of the way. With relationships, Kelly, she took that information and said, okay, we can, establish those relationships, but maybe, let's make it easier for you to find. Let's set it up, this way so you can see it, anytime you click on a company or contact record, or, let's create different list views where you can see this information, in a different format or in a different page, or maybe let's create different, searches, where you may have to just, adjust one, parameter or two, based on, if you're looking for a certain industry or certain company or whatever, but you basically change one parameter and create, and then the search spits out the report for you. So just doing those things that, you know, taking what we had and then really making it more efficient and really, really improving it for us is really where Hike 2 was really helpful, I think. And Louise did the same thing with account engagement. I can't say enough about her. Um, our templates and everything was a little bit of a struggle because it was coming from a clunky system. But she really made it work really well for us and helped really improve things.
Were there any unexpected challenges, John, that popped up in the transition to Salesforce? I mean, how did Hike 2 handle those? I know you and I, obviously, we chatted before this, and a couple, things that kind of stood out to me that you had said, besides, Kelly and Louisa and the work that they did with your team, was around, every meeting being recorded, and just the amount of detail that, we were able to provide back to you and your team was helpful. But, any unexpected challenges?
I don't think anything was really unexpected. Um, I guess the biggest challenge was probably just rolling out to the team, because there was only, two or three of us that were involved kind of pretty intimately with the transition, and so we really had to roll it out to about a dozen or so folks. But like you mentioned earlier, they were so thorough. We held weekly, status update meetings. We had, every time they built out something else, they would show us and recorded everything, send detailed notes, send progress reports multiple times a week. And then they held training sessions for us and recorded those and sent those out to us. And then they held, training sessions for our whole team, and recorded those. And they were there for us when we actually did go live and were able to answer some questions for us that we had. And I mean, there were some growing pains. There are always going to be growing pains when you have, a new system. But if it wasn't for the amount of work that we put in detailing everything and showing and keeping record of how everything works, I think it would have been a lot more difficult. So um, we were really happy with how High 2 really help facilitate that transition.
Yeah, so it sounds like the investment in Hike 2 really sort of improved the firm's transition to Salesforce.
Yeah, I mean, unless you have someone who has all those certifications that you listed earlier in your slide, it, it's such a big platform, and you just have to know so much that you have to have someone, in my opinion, that knows what they're doing, um, and can do it, and really, um, just need someone that has just an intimate knowledge. And it sounds like, you mentioned you had what, like 10 years at Salesforce, I think you
Yes.
said. And
Yep.
yeah, and so I'm sure others that, at High 2 have experience at Salesforce. And so just having that, that corporate knowledge of sales, of how the inner workings of Salesforce, I think is really important. Um, yeah, because you can't really wrap your head around it if you're just starting, if you're trying to do it yourself. So yeah, it was really great resource to tap into.
I have one more question for you, John, but before I get to my final question, Kalia, I know you've been monitoring the chat and the Q&A. I'm not sure if there's anything else out there. I have not gotten to see it quite yet.
Yeah, we don't have any questions coming in, but this is a great reminder to send us some questions if you have them top of mind. You can use the chat functionality, you can use the Q&A, and we'll get to them at the very end.
All right, Kalia, shout them out if you do see any or hear any.
Okay.
We'd love to hear them. And John, as promised, my final question to you, I think the phrase that you just used was wrapping our head around Salesforce or something similar to that. John, you're the Salesforce admin now. Can talk to us about that transition to becoming sort of the go-to person for Salesforce for Shook Hardy.
Yeah. So yeah, since I maintained our previous CRM system, I'm pretty much was the default person to do it here. But I was excited for it. Um, you know, prior to us starting with Salesforce, I really didn't have much knowledge outside of just having a brief overview and kind of knowing generally what they do. But I didn't really understand how big it was until we got our hands, kind of in the weeds. Um, our team has always been small, but we think our team is kind of small but mighty. Um, and I spend probably about 2/3 of my time in the CRM and about 1/3 on account engagement. But the easiest way I found was just to get in there and learn. One of the most amazing tools that Salesforce has is what's called a sandbox, where you can create just like a demo organization of kind of like a mini version of what you already have. And so I was in there constantly just testing out flows, testing out different fields I can add, and different formulas and different things like that, and just playing around in there, before being able to move some of that information or some of those processes and workflows over from the sandbox to the production org. Um, and so that's just been really helpful. Salesforce has an expansive resource called Trailhead, where you can create different, like think like a walking trail, where you create a little path for yourself, learning different, taking different classes and leading to a path of like a certification. So that's been really great to tap into. Um, and let's see. And when all else failed, if I couldn't find anything, always, I consulted, my good friends, Dr. Google and Dr. YouTube. They were very helpful if because Salesforce is so big that, if I'm having a problem, it's almost inevitable that someone else has a problem or is having the same problem. And so, being able to connect with other people, via that way and view, different videos, articles, tutorials, things like that, on, YouTube or Google, was really helpful. So, um, yeah, that's how kind of I became the person and I've kind of learned everything I know about Salesforce so far, and I'm still learning every single day. I feel like I'm, testing something, every single day, every single week, and trying to figure out ways to make our information flow more smoothly and more efficiently. So, yeah.
John, there is a question out there from someone. I'll read it to you regarding tweaks to Salesforce that were required to make Salesforce really work at Shook Hardy. And this person has heard some maybe horror stories about Salesforce implementations within a law firm. I don't know. It sounds like you didn't see that. Maybe you saw the opposite of that.
Let me see.
Yeah, can you see the chat? It's
Yeah,
just
sorry, I just
more.
had to pull it up.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's okay. Yeah.
Um,
Figuring out the intricacies of Zoom. I guess
yeah,
you could even, John, sort of touch on, it's obviously, changing object names and workflows and making it a very
yeah.
sort of a law firm specific, I guess, implementation. But I don't know if that's any of that you want to touch on, or even just, some of the way, Louisa and Kelly worked with the team. I don't know if any of that would help here.
Yeah, I mean, I think just the biggest tweak, or I shouldn't say tweak, but the biggest thing that was important for us was really communicating what your needs are. Relationship information looks different in one system to the other. Um, and so that was, something we had to navigate. There's different ways to display information, and really, um, I think the biggest thing was really, um, just being upfront with what you need. Because we found that no matter what our need was, Salesforce, there was a solution somehow. Um, and if you have the availability, someone like Kelly or Louisa at a company like Haiku, who really knows intimately kind of all the inner workings behind Salesforce. Um, that's the resource that we need to tap into. Um, let's see. We didn't. Maybe we're just lucky and we didn't have any horror stories. Um, you know, for the information that we were looking into or we were looking at, we just didn't have any trouble. And our IT team is really great, and they're able to tap into the open API. So I don't know if maybe there's horror stories about something maybe the IT team didn't, or maybe you can't connect somehow, or some I don't know the software is not talking. I just don't know what kind of horror stories you may be referencing. But we honestly didn't really have any, because Hike 2 was so great, and our internal folks were really great about getting the connectivity and everything. So
John, there is a question out there about integrations, and sort of integrations and during the implementation. And I know we talked about IntroHive and Salesforce being integrated. I don't know if you want to maybe talk about that, or maybe any other. I think the integrations were fairly limited, but certainly IntroHive was key.
yeah, we don't have a ton of integrations right now. The first kind of year um, we spent with Salesforce was really trying to get our wrap our heads around how the platform works. And now within the last probably or actually towards the end of last year and now this year, we really started to kind of branch out into other areas of our organization. So we've tapped into our records department for some client information there. We tapped into our HR department with some, to keep our, employee information kind of accurate. Um, and it's been really easy to do. Once we established a connection with, I think it was the data loader tool, it was really easy for our IT team to plug in, and just identify what fields write their own script. So it pulls the right information and sets up their criteria, and then it just runs every night. And it's been, for the most part, pretty smooth. There's always a couple hiccups, but those have largely been kind of resolved. But like Mike said, and I alluded to earlier, the App Exchange has been a really great resource for us. There's a project management software that our team uses, that there's just a plugin just like straight up already built available for Salesforce. Like they have like on their website, this is our plugin for Salesforce. So you just click on the, click on the plugin, and you go through about 3 or 4 installation steps, and it's already right there ready for you. So that's where I think Salesforce really has the advantage, because their third party, um, I guess, plugins are so vast, and so they just have so many tentacles out there that, um, if you have a need for it, there's probably something that you can there's just probably something you can find that's going to be able to help you with that.
Well, John, that was awesome. I want to say thank you. You see on the slide here a couple of maybe housekeeping items that I'll get to. Our number one, I think I mentioned LMA up front in Washington D.C. next week. Love it if you're there. If you could let us know, we'd love to meet up and have a conversation. So if you do plan to attend, I'll share my email after this with all of you that were able to attend. I'd love to hear from you and love to meet you next week in DC. And then Clock as well. I mentioned Clock in May. Kaylee, I don't know if maybe you want to talk a little bit about our presence at Clock.
Yeah, for sure. We're going big there. We'll be at booth number 615. This is at the beginning of May. So if anybody is going to be in town, please reach out to us at hello@hike2.com. If you'd like to set up an on-site meeting, we're going to have a lot of fun things, some great swag happening at the booth. So it's definitely a not to be missed situation. And yeah, and at LMA, like you said, Mike, we'll be there too. So please, feel free to reach out to us. But this has been a great conversation. Do we have time for one more question?
I think John, are you okay with one more question?
Yeah, sure.
And so we have a question coming in from Jennifer. She says, how do your lawyers like using Salesforce?
Oh, there we go.
And what I wanted to say is, are your lawyers using Salesforce?
So the actor or lawyers do not use Salesforce. That's just the way our firm works.
Yeah.
So I can't give you an answer there. Our Salesforce has always been just, or our CRM has always been just held within the marketing department. So yeah, I'm sorry, I can't.
Uh-huh.
in there. I know most firms do have the lawyers use Salesforce. We just unfortunately don't right now.
Mhm.
Yeah, we've, I remember talking early on, John, with you and the team about that, and putting that in the roadmap potentially for Shook Hardy. So, and as John said, I mean, many firms their attorneys are using it today. So definitely something that's out there. But yeah, appreciate the question and appreciate the honest response, John.
I mean, if I had to put my mind or put myself in the mind of one of our lawyers, I would think that, they would think that it's, you know, the information is, um, easy to visualize and easy to kind of digest, and there's a lot of really great information in there. So I would assume that, if one day we maybe give our attorneys or some of our attorneys maybe even access to Salesforce, I would think that they would be happy with the information that's in there, because we get asked all the time, especially with our top rainmakers, who do we know, or what kind of relationships do we have with whatever company, organization, industry, or whatever. And so I think they would be happy with the way we've been able to the way that information kind of lives in Salesforce. So, but that's just me
Excellent.
speculating.
Yeah, no, thanks. And thanks for playing the role of attorney there, John. I want to find out, maybe we'll chat after this, what your billable hour rate is. We can chat after this,
Yeah.
though. You can send that to me via text. Thanks, Kalia, for the commercial on Clock and the Hike 2 presence there. Again, LMA next week. We'll be at ILTACon in August. Everyone, thank you. Thank you, John. Thank you. Thanks for answering the questions, for really sharing your experiences. I think that really important to those listening live, and those that are going to be watching the recording. Thanks to all of you listening live. Thanks to all of you listening to the recording 2 days or 2 weeks out. Hope you all have a great rest of the day, and we'll talk to you all soon. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone. Bye-bye.